Purple Ella here and welcome back to my channel. So today I was going to talk to you about autism and women and girls, but actually what's happened is I've had a really difficult 10 days or so in which I've really struggled with anxiety and I've really struggled with overload and overstimulation, and as a result I've had a lot more meltdowns than usual. So probably about one, sometimes more a day, every day for the last 10 days, which is obviously incredibly disruptive and difficult. So I want to talk about that today because I think it's a really important topic when you're thinking about autism and how best to help someone with autism. So prior to getting my autism diagnosis, I think that my meltdowns have been the biggest cause of problems in my life so far. I've been having meltdowns since I was a little girl, and they've never stopped, and they've always caused me to feel really bad about myself and affected my self-esteem. And because I didn't know at the time that they were meltdowns, I basically just thought that I couldn't control myself, and that made me feel really bad about myself and made it really difficult for me to have high self-esteem. So since my autism diagnosis and recognising that what I'm actually experiencing has a name and is typical in people with autism and isn't necessarily something that is my fault, I have felt a little teeny weeny bit better about the situation with meltdowns, but it's still something that I'd really like to minimise if possible because it's really disruptive. So what do meltdowns look like? How do you know that someone is having a meltdown? So for me, and I can of course only speak for me, everyone's meltdowns are probably different and probably individual, but for me a meltdown is the result of lots and lots of things that aren't easy for me to handle all happening in a row until my brain tells me that it can't go on anymore. So what happens is there will have been a day or 2 days or even a week of things building up, things that I didn't plan for, things that didn't go the way that I thought they would go, difficult situations to deal with, plus the usual kind of my life of looking after my children and managing my family schedule and running the household. When all of those things happen at the same time, the end result will usually be a meltdown. And what the meltdown looks like for me is it will start off that I will start ranting about a particular topic. So let's say, for example, the final straw in the meltdown is that a bus is late. I'm going to start going, oh my goodness, I can't believe that bus is late. I mean, what's wrong with buses? Like, seriously, can people not coordinate the bus system? And I'll just keep going. And it's even worse if I'm with someone and they start trying to weigh in on the topic or trying to tell me that maybe things aren't how I see them, because then that's more stimulation and I'll get more and more ranty until eventually I will probably start crying. It's really difficult for me to explain this because I actually have like a little blank spot each time that I have a meltdown and don't really remember very clearly what's happened. But from what I can remember and for what people have told me, after the ranting I'll probably start crying. If I'm not taken to a quiet, safe place, then I might end up doing things that I really regret doing, and this is really hard to admit on the internet, but basically things that I have done in the past are breaking things. I have been known to throw a fruit bowl's worth of apples onto the floor. I might shout and say things that I really don't mean. I might get into a little ball on the floor and crying and rocking, or I might pace around and basically it's really kind of easy to see that and think, oh, this person's having a temper tantrum which they really should have outgrown, or oh, this person needs to get a hold of themselves and do some anger management. But the reality is that for me, I actually am not a particularly angry person, and generally I'm quite compassionate and quite good at seeing things like from different angles and understanding. It's just that when I have a meltdown I become completely incapable of doing all of those things, and I'm just expressing, I guess, all of that built up stress and all of that it takes to cope with being in the world as an autistic person, and it just comes out in one great big. So it's taken me a really long time to realise that these are in fact meltdowns and not me being like a completely useless person who can't control herself. But now that I recognise them as meltdowns, I can sort of start to analyse them a little bit, and that gives me the opportunity to figure out what I need to do either to prevent the meltdown from happening in the first place, or if a meltdown is happening, what I need the people around me to do to help me. Because once that meltdown is happening, there's no way that I can do something that will stop it from happening. So what do meltdowns feel like for the autistic person? Again, this is just for me personally, but for me personally, a meltdown feels like every single thing in the whole world is completely wrong, and I just will not and cannot cope with it at all ever again. And that's like, it's like the biggest disaster that could happen has happened. And then, to be honest with you, I don't have a huge amount of sense of what it feels like during the meltdown, because as I've explained to you, I do get, like, I can sort of remember that I was there, but it's all very blurry, almost like remembering a dream. But I know that after the meltdown, especially if someone else has been involved and maybe I've said something that I really regret or done something that I really regret, I basically feel like a really deep sense of shame and embarrassment. And on top of that, I feel really, really exhausted, maybe a little bit headachy, basically like I need a rest, like I've done a big load of exercise and I need a rest, in combination with beating myself up about the fact that I haven't been able to keep it together and that I've maybe upset someone or said something or done something that I really regret. And that's really hard, and it's really hard to go from that position of feeling like that to pick yourself up again and to carry on with your day and to have self-belief. Is really, really hard when you've been through the experience of having had a meltdown. So yeah, it's a really horrible and difficult thing, and if there was one thing that I could change in my life, it would be for there to not be meltdowns anymore. Unfortunately I can't, so what can I do to minimise the impact of meltdowns on my life? Now, I know that over the last couple of weeks things have got a little bit difficult, and I also know that when I've had a meltdown I'm much more sensitive and in danger of having another meltdown soon. So basically meltdowns can happen in clusters. So I do know that if I can get myself onto a straight path of not having had meltdowns for a little while, then that increases my chances of them not happening. So if I've had a meltdown, or if I feel like I'm going to have a meltdown, it's really important that I keep the next few days after the meltdown has happened quite low-key and quite gentle, so that I get a chance to recover and get back onto an even keel. Ahead of potentially a meltdown happening, perhaps I can do a similar thing, perhaps I can avoid the meltdown, perhaps I can't. One thing that I'm realising really is that possibly this is just going to be hopefully a very small part of my life that I need to deal with. I know that during a meltdown, things that are not helpful are talking to me. Talking to me is not helpful. The most helpful thing that you can do for someone that is in meltdown is to either be completely silent or to just use a very minimal amount of language to help that person to know that you are there for them and that you are going to keep them safe. If you don't take anything from this video apart from that, please, please stop talking, because as soon as you start talking or trying to do things for that person in meltdown, you're adding stimulation to an overstimulated brain, and that's going to increase the intensity of the meltdown, possibly the duration, and also lead to a situation where that person is much more likely to do or say something towards you that they're going to later regret. So back off. Make sure that the person in meltdown is in a safe space, that they know that you're there for them, that they know that you're just going to leave them to do what they need to do, and then just let them be. Just let them be. Don't add any more input to the situation. Take a step back and be there for them after that meltdown. Make sure that they know that you know that they didn't mean for that to happen, and that you understand that it's a part of their autism that this happens, and give them space and time and minimal stimulation to recover from that meltdown. So that's really That's really the best advice that I can offer for someone who is dealing with someone in meltdown, because I know that people, when someone's in meltdown, can see it as looking like someone in emotional distress or someone who's got a problem, and they can end up trying to problem solve and say, well, maybe this, or maybe if we do that, or by that point it is too late and you just need to back off. So okay, hopefully that's helpful, and that's all that I have to say about meltdowns today. I think it's a really big topic and maybe something that I'll cover again in future videos. If there's anything specific that you would like to know about meltdowns, then please leave a comment in the comment box and I'll try and address it in a future video. So that's all from me. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and goodbye.